Hi everyone, Leah here from EurekaCrystalBeads.com with another fun beading video for you. Before I get started, just take a quick look at our channel, and if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button and notification bell. You'll always know when we're posting new content. Today's video is going to be a really great technique video. And what it's going to be about is how you can do different types of picot edging. And we actually got some questions and requests to do a video about picot edging. And what I've decided to do is show you different ways that you can do picot edging off of a little swatch of peyote that I have here. And what I'm going to start by doing is showing you really quickly how you make this. Now, I'm not going to go too in depth because we do have other videos that show you how to do peyote, but I'm going to give you a nice little quickie tutorial so you can get this part started. And what we're going to be using for that are some size 11 Miyuki Delica cylinder beads, but any cylinder bead will do. You don't even have to use a cylinder bead. You could use a regular Japanese size 11 as well, though I do recommend a cylinder bead only because they're going to be the most uniform for doing a stitch like this. Okay, I've dumped out some of my Miyuki Delica beads. I have a size 12 needle here and just a length of some 6-pound fire line. And we're just going to be creating a little swatch that is 4 beads wide. So we're going to pick up 4 of our Delica beads. And this is going to be even count peyote, so you want it to be an even number for whatever number you decide to pick for the width. We're going to leave a tail that's long enough that we could stick a needle on it later and weave it in. And what I'm going to do now is pick up a 5th bead. I'm going to go back into the second to the last bead, heading in the direction towards the first bead I picked up. And the new bead that I have right on my needle here is going to end up sitting right on top of the bead I'm skipping over, which is that last bead, the 4th bead I picked up. And sometimes you do have to kind of bonk them into place a little bit. There you go. That's the new bead that we just picked up, and that was the 4th bead that we picked up. Now, it's going to be a little hard to hold at first. But what we're going to do next is pick up one new Delica bead and go through the very first Delica bead that we picked up. When you get this nice and tight, you're going to see what we get. It's going to start to look like a little zipper, and we're going to have up beads and down beads, or little mountains and little valleys. That's another way that can make peyote a little bit easier to learn. Now we're just going to flip our work. That's at least what I find easiest to do. You certainly don't have to. You can just keep working back and forth away from yourself and towards yourself, but I like to flip my work. And you can see that 2 out of those 4 beads along the top here are popped up. That tells you that they're the beads that you're going to go through. So I picked up a new Delica bead here, and I'm going to go through the popped up bead, so that way my new bead sits in that little valley right above the bead that's lowered. Just like this. We pick up one more Miyuki Delica bead, and we go through that last bead that is popped up, and our new bead is going to sit right in that little valley. You guessed it. Just like this. Now you might have to pull it just a little bit tight, and I'm going to flip my work again. So I'm going to continue in this fashion, and as will you, until you get a swatch that is long enough. And this is really up to you. It depends on how many different types of little picots that you want to try. But what's going to be great about this little swatch of beading is that when it's done, you're going to have a little sampler that you can refer back to. You can keep it in your bead box, and you can refer back to it when you're trying to think of ways that you can edge your beading. So again, I'll pick up a Delica bead, I'll go through this popped up bead, then I'll pick up one more Delica bead and go through this popped up bead. And we're going to keep going back and forth until we get this right here. Just like that. And a fun little tip for you is once you've made this length here, as long as you end just like this, you can see how they zipper right together. Now, if you find that your peyote does not want to zipper together, because they're not lining up, the mountains and valleys are not lining up, it means you just have to go back and do one more row. So add 2 more beads, and then you will get it to line up perfectly. But what's neat is that you can eventually zipper this together, and you could have a ring. You could even make this a cool sampler ring that you can wear as you're beading to gain inspiration, which I think is sort of fun. But at the very least, you can keep it as a little strip here, a little ribbon, and you can keep it for your picot ideas. So that's what we're going to get to next. Okay, so we have our completed little swatch here, and I have my fire line coming right out of the end here. And the basic idea of a picot, and if you're not familiar with it, you may have seen it spelled out Picot, but it is not pronounced picot, it is pronounced picot. And the idea is that you have a little trio of beads that can edge along your beadwork. Now in this case, we are edging some peyote. You could edge along brick stitch. You could edge along loom work. You could edge along any kind of, the edging of bead embroidery. You can do these types of embellishments, picots, or even things that are more fancy along all different types of beadwork. But this to me is sort of your standard, basic, go-to edging that is just simple and lovely and really, really versatile. And it adds so much without really detracting from other things that you're working on. So to give you the first basic idea for picot is simply 3 beads, small beads of the same size. So I'm going to start with 3 little Japanese 15s here. And you're simply coming out of one bead and going into the next bead. And the picot forms this adorable little triangle there. And now I can just go out the next bead. So I was coming out of bead 1, I picked up 3 beads, I went into bead 2, and then I'm going right out bead 3 again, and my thread will get tucked right down into there, and you won't even see it. Just like that. And then you can pick up another 3 beads. Now I do recommend, if you're going to do this as a great little sampler swatch to refer back to, I would recommend not just doing one little set in each of the designs, because it's really not going to give you the best idea of what they look like in abundance. So we're going to do a few more of what this looks like with the 3 little Mayuki 15s here. Using a great little beautiful gold color. Keep in mind the beads I have picked here are not for color coordination. They are simply for designing with the different seed bead sizes and shapes. So I do have here some other beads as well. I might as well tell you those now. I have some Japanese 15s. I have some Czech 15 Charlottes, which have that beautiful single facet. These are a hair smaller than a Japanese 15. I have some Mayuki 11s here. I have some Demis, some size 8 Demis, and I have some O beads. So we're going to have some fun playing around with what different beads look like as a picot, not only by themselves, but when combined with other beads. So I like to do a little swatch of 5 little picots here. So this is number 4, and you can see what beautiful texture that it gives this. And not only that, but when you look at this type of beadwork, you can see all those little threads that are connecting all of our rows together. And this is also a great way, not only for the design of it, I mean, look how beautiful that looks, but it also covers up that whole edge and adds such a finished look. If there's nothing that bothers me more, it's beadwork that shows the threads. I love, oops, got a little ahead of myself there. So this may happen to you as well. I accidentally picked up my beads while I was still on the inside of my beadwork. So it happens to the best of us. So let me just exit out that bead as I meant to do. Beading and talking, there's an art form to it, folks. So now I can pick up that last little set of 3 and enter into the next bead. So on our little swatch strip here, you will be able to refer back to what it looks like to have a picot edging along size 11 delicas, which is a pretty standard size for delica, with a Japanese 15. So now let's move on, and we're going to show you what it looks like when you do it with a mix of 15s and 11s. What we're going to do is change up that middle bead, and we're going to make it into an 11. But let me go and just exit my beadwork first here. All right, so we're going to pick up Japanese 15, Japanese 11, and then Japanese 15. And we're going to see what that does. So you can see now we have a picot that's going to pop out just a little bit more. We're going to have a different type of texture here because we're incorporating a different size. And it's going to get just a hair bigger because that size 11 is going to pop out just a little bit more. And I also really love the little pop of color that you can give here as well. I truly believe that the devil is in the details. See, I almost did it again. I have to exit out the next bead. The devil truly is in the details. And I think it's these small details that really can set your beadwork apart there. There we go. Sometimes you have to pop it up a little bit. But how pretty is that? Come on. There we go. How lovely is that, really? I mean, the edging that gives is just really, really fun. Again, it's a little bit more bulbous, but that's all right. So I'm going to finish up this one and we'll move on to the next design. All right, so this is what we have so far. So this so far, as you can see, is going to be a really great reference tool for you. And I hope you can also see how it's important that you did more than one to test them out, because just seeing one doesn't always give you the best idea, especially since if you make your picot too bulky using beads that are too large, what can happen is they won't sit nice and straight like this. They can start to ruffle a little bit, and that you may love that texture, you may not love that texture, but you're only going to know that your beads are going to do that by doing more than one. So for example, if you do picots on a delica like this with 3 size 11s, they do start to ruffle a little bit. So that's why I think it's a little better to have a little 15 on either side of it. But you may love the idea that they kind of ruffle back and forth. It's totally up to you. But the next one I'm going to show you is when we use a 15 and a Demi. I absolutely love these Demis. I think they're so neat. You can do so much with them that you can do with a regular, more round seed bead, but they give such a different texture because they're a little bit more squashed. And you're going to see a good example of that right here. So I'm going to head right into my next delica. Again, sometimes you got to pop it up a little bit. And so now we have one that really sits even higher and even spikier than the 11. Because remember, this is a size 8, but it's sort of like a squashed size 8, but it's got that height that a size 8 is going to have when you look at it from this direction. So again, a cool texture here. Let's try it a couple more times to get a better idea of what it's going to look like. Again, sometimes you got to just pop it up there. And another thing you can do is once you go out through the next bead, you can give it a nice good little tug, and that'll also help to pop it up as well, just like that. I absolutely love this look. I think it gives it just such a neat textural look. A little more bubbly. You know, I'm actually using a size 10 needle. I lied earlier. This is a size 10 needle. That's probably why every once in a while I'm getting a 15 that doesn't want to go on. But as you can see, the majority of this can be done with a size 10. So as you can see, it kind of wants to sit a little funky. Just go up through the next one, and once you pull it, it's going to sit up nice and high for you. Super fun. So I'm going to do a couple more of these and come back and show you what it looks like. All right, I went ahead and started my next one, and I'm going to show you how it looks finished off. But what I did here is I used the really fun O beads. Now, because they are a little bit taller, I did have to cheat a little bit. And so my loading sequence to do this really beautiful, kind of luxurious black and gold edging is that I used 2 of my 15 Charlottes, the O bead, and then 2 of my 15 Charlottes. So it may not be 3 beads, but it's still an odd number and it still looks fantastic. So that's all I had to do is I just had to improvise just a little bit, and I got this really cool edging that I'm absolutely loving with the O beads. Now, the last one I'm going to show you is I'm going to do on the other side here, and that's what the edging looks like when you only use the 15 Charlottes, which is going to be the daintiest of dainty looks. Okay, so this is what our edging looks like when we only use the teeny tiny 15 Charlottes, which again are that wonderful check seed bead with that single facet on it. And they have the lowest profile here, and I'm going to show you compared to the Japanese 15. You can see the Japanese 15s are a little bit bigger than the check 15s. They sit up just a little bit higher. They form a little bit more of that perfect little picot triangle because they're just the right size to do that on the delicas here. These ones, they may not form that perfect popped up triangle, but they do still form that lovely consistent little scalloped edging, and it just has a little bit more of a lower profile than the Japanese 15s, but still a beautiful, delicate, lovely way to finish the edging of your beadwork. So these are your ideas for today, folks. I encourage you to make yourself a peyote strip and practice or come up with your own ideas for doing different types of picot edging. And what I would recommend is start by setting out these exactly how I did them, so you have them always for reference, and then keep going down this side and make yourself your own little ideas for your picot edging that you can always reference back to. And again, feel free to sew that peyote strip into a ring, and you have a great little reference ring, I guess you could say, to wear for fun when you're beading for added inspiration. All right, guys, I hope you found this technique and this exercise helpful. Anything that we can do to add wonderful, beautiful detail to our beadwork is always what sets it apart. As always, thanks for watching. Make sure to visit us on over at EurekaCrystalBeads.com for all of these different supplies and more. And I will see you next time. Bye.